I was walking and the fox ran up behind me and clipped my ankle with its mouth.
What did you do after that?
I screamed.
As anyone would, right, when they find themselves a victim of a vulpine. We like to keep up with what's happening in Washington, D.C. here on the 208, especially if it involves Idaho. And this week, well, there hasn't been this much commotion on the Capitol grounds since, well, last January. You see, a fox was running around scaring people and biting them, apparently, including a congressman from California and former Idaho Statesman reporter Ximena Bustillo, who you just heard screamed. Ximena moved to D.C. about a year and a half ago to cover politics for Politico. Well, this week, that fox was caught and euthanized and tested positive for rabies, which is unfortunate. But that also added a whole other level to Ximena's story of being bitten by a fox while working at the U.S. Capitol. Well, we spoke with Ximena today, who is one rabies shot into her 4-shot series, to get a few more details other than I screamed. Hey there.
Hey, how are you?
Thank you very much for doing this.
Sorry, I've done so many of these. It's just...
Have you really?
I was walking.
Between every local D.C. TV station.
Scary?
I mean, kind of, more confusing.
The Washington Post, the Idaho Statesman, NPR, twice, and Politico, where she works, Ximena Bustillo has been on the other side of the interview a lot lately.
Poverino.
All because of a red fox running around the U.S. Capitol.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I had no idea.
Except there was an email sent out by the Sergeant-at-Arms on Tuesday warning about a fox biting people and the possibility of several dens on Capitol grounds.
I hadn't seen any of it on Twitter. I hadn't heard anybody talking about it. I didn't even see the email at that point. And then I found the fox when I was walking home.
No, it found you.
It did. Yeah, you're right. It did find me.
In the middle of the afternoon on Tuesday.
I was just walking home in like plain sight of everybody. And I feel the nip like on my ankle like that, like my leg was moving and it bit me. And I screamed incredibly loud. And I like whipped around and the fox ran in front of me and I took my backpack and I just like swung at it. So I thought it was gonna like jump at my face or something. Then I like turned to some people that were like maybe a block away and I was just like, it's a fox. Like I wanted people to know that I was screaming for a reason.
Of course.
And not just like screaming at a cat or something. Like, I'm like, this is a fox. Like, I was just barely like, it's right there.
Lucky for Ximena, people came running, some already calling Capitol Police.
So fortunately, like when people ran over, it kind of scampered away and then everyone kind of kept track of where it was going. So when animal control got there and they got the fox, they knew that that was the one that had bit me.
Ximena was the fox's 9th victim.
I think I was the last one that it got, and I think I was the worst one. It drew blood.
But it also drew attention to disease. Were you concerned at that point about any sort of repercussions from this other than the scratching and the bleeding?
Like if I had rabies?
Yeah, I mean, was that a concern from the beginning?
I think so. I think the first thing that I thought was, what am I supposed to do? Because a part of me for a second, I was like, do I just walk home? And then I was like, no, this is a fox. I should not do that.
She did, however, turn to Twitter, posting that feeling when you get bitten by a fox leaving the Capitol, because that's, of course, something I expect in the middle of D.C. Or pointing out she did nothing wrong. I'm from Idaho. I know to not try and pet it. And you're telling me I survived 3 years of a pandemic to be bitten by a rabid fox? So a year and a half you've been there, and now you're getting national attention for being bitten by a fox, which is pretty awesome.
It's not the worst thing that I could be getting national attention for. I will say, as a reporter that does what I think is a lot of meaningful work about agriculture and food and people's access to both of those things, I do wish that this national attention was maybe more about that than me being bit by a fox, but it's not the worst thing ever. So there is that.
She does a lot of good work on ag and food and stuff like that. Worth a follow on Twitter. Ximena says she's been getting text messages and phone calls from friends she hasn't seen in years. By the way, Ximena didn't just get a rabies shot. which came a day late because of a mix-up at the ER. But she also got a tetanus shot and 2 immunoglobulin shots, and in 2 days, she's going to get her second rabies shot, and a third and a fourth coming over the next couple of weeks. Wow, yeah, it goes in the arm, by the way, not the stomach. Like, we both were raised to think that's how they did it, and apparently they haven't done it like that since the 80s, so there's that. Well, the fox, unfortunately, did have 3 kits in her den, and they were also euthanized today because of their likely exposure to their mother.